The wolf's eyes held human understanding as it bled out in her arms, and that's when Mira Ashford realized saving its life would be the worst mistake she'd ever make. She'd been checking her trail cameras when she heard it. Not a howl, but something worse, a sound caught between rage and agony that made her blood run cold. Mira knew pain when she heard it. She'd made a career out of answering its call, even after she'd stopped answering everything else. Her boots crunched through the October frost as she followed the sound deeper into the woods behind her cabin. The Pacific Northwest was beautiful this time of year, all gold and crimson, the kind of beauty that made people forget how quickly the wilderness could kill you. She found him in a clearing bathed in moonlight. The wolf was massive, easily 150 pounds, black as midnight except for the blood matting his fur. His left hind leg was caught in a steel trap, the old-fashioned kind that hunters weren't supposed to use anymore. The kind that didn't just catch, it destroyed. Mira stopped 20 feet away, her hand instinctively moving to the tranquilizer gun at her hip. 6 years as a wilderness vet had taught her that injured animals were dangerous animals, no matter how much they needed help. But this wolf wasn't snarling at her. He was watching her with eyes too golden, too aware, too human for any animal she'd ever treated. "Easy," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "I'm going to help you." The wolf's ears flicked forward. Then he did something that should have sent her running back to her cabin. He nodded. Myra's hands trembled as she loaded the tranquilizer dart. Every survival instinct she had screamed at her to turn around, to call fish and wildlife, to let someone else handle this. But she'd stopped listening to her instincts 3 years ago when they'd failed to warn her about Daniel. She fired. The wolf didn't fight the drug. He kept those impossible eyes on her until they finally closed. Getting him back to her clinic took an hour and every ounce of strength she had. She'd retrofitted the old shed behind her cabin after moving here, equipped it with everything she needed to treat injured wildlife far from prying eyes. Far from people who asked questions. Under the harsh LED lights, the wolf looked even bigger. Mira had treated wolves before, but never one like this. His muscles were dense as a predator twice his size, and his coat, when she cleaned away the blood, shimmered like black silk. She set up the fore first, fluids to counteract the shock, then examined the leg. The trap had nearly severed it. Bone gleamed white through the mangled tissue. Any normal wolf would lose the leg. But as she worked, something impossible happened. The torn muscles started knitting together before her eyes. Mira blinked, convinced exhaustion was playing tricks on her. She'd been up since dawn, had hiked 12 miles checking her monitoring sites before this. But when she looked again, the healing continued. Slow, but unmistakable. "What are you?" she whispered. The wolf's body temperature spiked on her monitor, 103, 104, 105. She grabbed ice packs, pressed them against his body. The fever broke as suddenly as it came. She sutured what she could, stabilized what she couldn't, and tried to ignore the way her hands shook every time those golden eyes fluttered open mid-surgery. Twice, the wolf woke despite enough sedative to drop a grizzly. Both times, his eyes flashed with an inner light that had nothing to do with her surgical lamps. Both times, she shot him up with more drugs and prayed. Dawn was breaking through the clinic windows when she finally finished. Mira secured the cage door, heavy-gauge steel meant for bears, and slumped against the wall beside it. Just for a minute, she told herself. She'd close her eyes for just a minute. She woke up to wrongness. The morning sun was too high. Her body ached from sleeping on concrete. And the air in the clinic felt different, heavier, charged with something that made her skin prickle. Myra's eyes snapped open. The wolf was gone. In the cage, naked and unconscious, was a man. He lay in the exact position the wolf had been in, his left leg wrapped in her bandages, her fore still in his arm. Black hair fell across a face all hard angles and brutal beauty, the kind of face that belonged on ancient coins or wanted posters. Scars cut across his chest and shoulders, old wounds that had healed badly. Myra's mind went blank with shock. Then training kicked in. She lurched to her feet, grabbed her phone. No signal, there never was out here. She'd have to drive to town, get the sheriff, figure out what the hell was happening. A howl split the morning silence. Then another. And another. Mira ran to the window. Her cabin sat in a clearing carved from dense forest, isolated by design. But the tree line wasn't empty anymore. Wolves. Dozens of them, forming a circle around her property. They sat perfectly still, perfectly silent now, watching her clinic with eyes that gleamed with that same terrible intelligence. No. The word came out as a whimper. No, no, no. Movement near the trees. 3 of the wolves walked forward, and as they crossed from shadow into sunlight, they changed. Bones cracked and reformed. Fur receded. Within seconds, 3 men stood where the wolves had been. Myra's back hit the wall. Her mind rejected what she'd just seen, but her body knew the truth. Her body was already flooding with adrenaline, preparing her to run even though there was nowhere to go. A low groan came from the cage. The man, the wolf, whatever he was waking up. Mira grabbed a scalpel from her surgical tray. Her hand was steady now. Shock had given way to the cold clarity that had kept her alive when Daniel's fists came down. The man's eyes opened. They were the same impossible gold as the wolf's. He took in the cage, his bandaged leg. Then his gaze locked on Mira, and something like recognition flickered across his face. You saved me. His voice was rough and used. Why? Because you were dying, Mira said. The scalpel felt small and useless in her hand. What are you? Trouble. A bitter smile crossed his face. The kind you can't walk away from now. The clinic door opened. Mira spun, scalpel raised, but the 3 men were already inside. They moved with predatory grace, spreading out to block any escape. The one in the middle, tall, with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much, raised his hands in a gesture of peace. Easy, document. His voice carried authority. We're not here to hurt you. Says the man who just broke into my clinic, Mira shot back. Fair point. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. His gaze shifted to the man in the cage, and Mira watched shock, then something like reverence, cross his face. My king. We thought. I know what you thought, Marcus. The man in the cage sat up, wincing. His eyes never left Mira. She found me caught in a silver trap. Poisoned. Someone wanted me dead slowly. A traitor, one of the other men growled. Obviously. Marcus, apparently the leader, turned back to Mira. His expression had shifted to something grimmer. Do you understand what you've done? Saved a life, Mira said. That's my job. You saved the Blackthorn Alpha King with your human hands. Marcus spoke slowly, like explaining death to a child. You've triggered a blood debt. Ancient law. Unbreakable. Myra's laugh came out sharp with hysteria. I don't care about your laws. I want you all off my property. It's not that simple, the man in the cage said. He gripped the bars, pulling himself to his feet. Even injured, even naked behind steel bars, he radiated power. What's your name? Mira. She didn't know why she answered. Mira. He said it like a prayer and a curse. I'm Caden Blackthorn. And whether you like it or not, we're bound now. You saved my life, which means you have leverage over the most powerful alpha in North America. I don't want leverage. I want a normal life. Too late. Caden's hands tightened on the bars. Someone in my pack betrayed me. They laced that trap with silver, the only thing that could weaken me enough to die like an animal. They expected me to bleed out alone. Instead, you found me. How fortunate for you, Mira said coldly. Not for you. Marcus stepped closer. Every pack in the territory will hear about this within hours. Some will see you as a threat. Others as an opportunity. They'll come for you, use you against him. It's already starting, those weren't just my wolves outside. We've picked up 3 different pack signatures in the last hour. Myra's grip tightened on the scalpel. So I'm supposed to just believe in werewolves and blood debts in. You watched us shift, Marcus interrupted. You've been treating a dying wolf all night who's now a man. What's left to believe? Everything, Mira wanted to say. The whole impossible nightmare. But she'd seen it. All of it. Open the cage, Caden said quietly. Marcus moved to obey, producing a key from somewhere. The lock clicked open. Caden stepped out, and Mira realized exactly how large he was, easily 6'4", shoulders broad enough to fill the doorway. He limped toward her, and she raised the scalpel. He stopped just out of reach. You have 48 hours before the other packs come for you in force, he said. His golden eyes held hers, and Mira saw truth there, brutal and absolute. You can run. Take your chances in the human world, and they'll hunt you down like prey. They'll torture you for information about me, about my weaknesses. Then they'll use you as a weapon against me before they kill you. Or... Myra's voice shook. Or you stay under my protection. Caden's hand rose slowly, carefully, giving her time to move away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her jaw, and heat raced through her body like wildfire. You become mine in every way that matters. My mate. My queen. Untouchable. That's insane. That's survival. Outside, a howl rose, long, mournful, hungry. Then another joined it, and another, until the morning air filled with the sound of hunting wolves. Caden's eyes never left hers. They're already coming, Mira. So what's it going to be? Run and die alone? Or stay and let me keep you alive? The scalpel fell from Myra's numb fingers. She'd come to these mountains to escape her past, to hide from the man who'd nearly killed her. She'd built walls of solitude and survival, convinced herself she was safe. But safety was an illusion. It always had been. And now she had a choice between impossible options: trust the monster she'd saved, or face the ones that were coming to tear her apart. Caden's hand was still on her face, warm and steady. Outside, the howls grew closer. 48 hours, he repeated softly. Then everything changes. Mira closed her eyes and tried to remember how to breathe. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. Myra's answer came fast and certain. No. Caden's hand dropped from her face. Something dangerous flickered behind those golden eyes, but his voice remained calm. No. I didn't ask to be part of this. I don't care about your pack politics or ancient laws. Myra's heart hammered, but she kept her chin up. She'd learned with Daniel that showing fear only made predators hungrier. I saved a dying animal because that's what I do. That doesn't make me yours. Marcus made a low sound of warning. Doc, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Mira cut him off. You're asking me to give up my life, my freedom, to become some kind of possession to a man I don't know. A werewolf I don't know. She looked at Caden. The answer is no. Now get out of my clinic. For a long moment, no one moved. The howls outside had gone silent, which somehow felt worse. Then Caden smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I was trying to be civilized about this, he said softly. But you need to understand something, Mira. Those wolves out there. They don't care about your choices. They don't care about your freedom. They care about leverage, about power, about using you to get to me. He moved closer, and this time Mira backed up until she hit the wall. So you can refuse my protection. You can tell me to leave. But in about 6 hours, when the Real hunters come, your no won't mean a damn thing. He's right, Marcus added. We'll leave if you insist. But we'll be collecting your body by nightfall. Get out. Myra's voice shook with rage and fear. Both of you. All of you. Get out. Caden held her gaze for another breath. Then he turned and limped toward the door, still naked, still bandaged, moving with the casual arrogance of a man who'd never had to bow to anyone. Remember, he said without looking back. You made this choice. They left. The wolves in the tree line vanished like smoke. Within minutes, Mira was alone in her clinic with only blood-stained surgical tools and the lingering scent of wild things. She locked every door and window in her cabin, loaded her rifle, and tried to convince herself she'd made the right decision. They came at sunset. Mira was checking the perimeter when she smelled it, something rotten and wet, like meat left too long in summer heat. Her rifle was in her hands before conscious thought caught up. 3 wolves emerged from the darkening forest. These weren't like Caden's pack. They moved wrong, heads low and slinking, eyes reflecting red instead of gold. The largest had a torn ear and a muzzle full of too many teeth. Mira fired a warning shot into the air. They kept coming. She aimed for the leader, but before she could squeeze the trigger, he moved, impossibly fast, a blur of matted fur closing the distance in a heartbeat. The rifle went flying. Claws raked across her shoulder, and Myra's scream split the twilight. She hit the ground hard. Blood soaked hot through her shirt. The wolf's weight crushed her chest, its breath reeking in her face as jaws opened wide. Then it was gone, torn away by something massive and black. Caden. But not the man she'd seen in her clinic. This was the wolf she'd saved, healed and whole and absolutely feral with rage. He moved like violence given form, ripping into the rival wolf with a savagery that made Myra's surgical work look gentle. 2 more wolves burst from the trees, Caden's pack, she realized distantly. Marcus was one of them, steel-gray and huge. They fell on the other 2 attackers while Caden destroyed their leader. It wasn't a fight. It was a massacre. Mira tried to crawl away, but her shoulder screamed and her vision swam. Through the gathering darkness, she watched Caden tear out the rival wolf's throat. Blood sprayed black in the dying light. The wolf tried to shift, to become human, to surrender. Caden didn't stop. He didn't stop until there was nothing left to kill. Then he turned to Mira, and she saw the truth of what he was. Not a man who could become a wolf, but something else entirely. Something that wore human skin like a costume but was always a predator underneath. His muzzle was red with blood. His eyes were empty of anything she recognized as human. Mira tried to speak, but darkness pulled her under. She woke in a bed that wasn't hers. The room was large and unfamiliar, all rough stone walls and exposed beams that looked hand-hewn. A fire crackled in a massive fireplace. Through the window, she saw not her familiar forest but something wilder, mountains rising like teeth against a star-strewn sky. You're awake. Marcus sat in a chair by the door. In human form, he looked like a man in his 50s, weathered and solid. How's the shoulder? Mira touched the bandage wrapped around her left shoulder and chest. The pain was there but distant, muffled. Where am I? Blackthorn Compound. About 80 miles from your cabin. He stood slowly, hands visible and empty. The king brought you here after the attack. You've been out for 6 hours. He had no right. He had every right. Caden's voice came from the doorway. He was dressed now, jeans and a dark shirt that did nothing to make him look less dangerous. You were dying. Those claws were poisoned, same wolfsbane mixture they used on me. Without treatment, you'd be dead. Mira struggled to sit up. So you kidnapped me? I saved your life. Again. Caden moved into the room with that predator's grace. Which makes us even, by the way. The blood debt is cleared. Something in Myra's chest twisted. Then I can leave. No. You just said. The debt is cleared. But you're not leaving. Caden crossed his arms. You've been marked now. Every pack in 3 states knows your scent. Knows you're connected to me. The attack tonight was just the beginning, the Silver River pack testing our defenses. When word spreads that you survived, they'll come harder. That's not my problem. But even as she said it, Mira knew it was a lie. Her shoulder throbbed with proof. It became your problem when you saved my life. Caden's voice was flat. I didn't make these rules, Mira. I just have to live with them. And now, so do you. Marcus cleared his throat. I'll give you two some privacy. No, Mira said quickly. Stay. But he was already gone, closing the door behind him. Mira and Caden stared at each other across the room. Outside, she heard sounds, voices, movement, the complex symphony of a community she couldn't see. How many? She asked. How many wolves live here? 347 in the main compound. Another 200 scattered across our territory. Caden moved to the window, giving her space. The Western packs had been unified under Blackthorn rule for 50 years. My father built this. I've kept it standing. And now I'm a prisoner in your kingdom. You're under my protection in my home. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. Caden turned, and the firelight caught his face. He looked exhausted, she realized. Shadows under his eyes, new lines bracketing his mouth. You'll have a shadow, a guard who'll stay with you until we figure out who the traitor is. You're free to move around the compound, talk to anyone, go anywhere except outside the wards. Wards? Magical boundaries. They keep other packs from sneaking in. He saw her expression and almost smiled. Werewolves aren't the only supernatural things in this world, Mira. Witches are real too. We have an alliance. Of course you do. Myra's head spun. This is insane. This is survival. Caden moved closer, and Mira tensed. But he just pulled up a chair and sat, putting them at eye level. I know you didn't ask for this. Hell, I didn't want it either. But we're here now, and I need you to understand the situation. Then explain it to me. I've ruled the Western packs for 10 years, he began. It's not a peaceful rule. Alphas challenge constantly, it's our nature. The strong lead, the weak follow or die. But I've kept the balance, maintained the territories, prevented all-out war. He paused. Then someone poisoned me with a trap that should have killed me. And you saved me. Why is that such a problem? Because I've been alone for 10 years. No mate, no heir, no weakness. That's made me strong, untouchable. But now there's you. His golden eyes locked on hers. A human woman who has my blood debt. Who smells like, he stopped, jaw clenching. It complicates things. Your brother, Mira said, remembering what Marcus had said. What happened to your first mate? Something brutal and ancient moved behind Caden's eyes. She was murdered. By a rival pack trying to destabilize my rule. His voice went flat. They cut her throat and left her on my doorstep. I was too late to save her. Too late to, he stopped. After that, I swore I'd never take another mate. Never give them another target. Then why protect me? Because you saved my life when you had every reason to run away. Because the blood debt is sacred. Because, he stood abruptly. Get some rest. We have a pack meeting at dawn. Why? Because everyone wants to know what I plan to do with you. And I need to make sure my answer keeps you alive. The pack meeting was held in an enormous hall carved from the mountain itself. Mira stood beside Caden on a raised platform, trying not to show her terror as hundreds of werewolves filed in. They looked human, mostly. But she could see the predator in every one of them. The way they moved, the way they watched her with eyes that held too much intelligence and hunger. Marcus stood at Caden's right hand. A young woman with silver blonde hair stood on Myra's left, introduced as her shadow, a guard named Ash who looked like she could break Mira in half without trying. Thank you for coming, Caden's voice rang through the hall. The conversations died instantly. You all know why you're here. 5 nights ago, I was poisoned and left to die. This human woman, Mira Ashford, saved my life, triggering a blood debt. That debt is now cleared. But she remains under my protection until we identify the traitor who tried to kill me. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mira caught fragments, just a human. Weakness. Should have let her die. She's a liability. The shout came from the crowd. A young man pushed forward, late 20s, with Caden's dark hair and the same brutal beauty. But where Caden's eyes were gold, his were amber. You're risking our entire pack for a human who means nothing to us. Silas. Caden's voice dropped to a dangerous rumble. Choose your next words carefully. Why? Because you'll kill me like you killed those Silver River wolves. Silas climbed onto the platform, defiant. Everyone saw it, brother. You didn't just defend her, you went feral. Lost control. That poison is still in your system, making you unstable. Making you weak. Watch yourself, Marcus growled. No. Silas turned to address the crowd. Our king is compromised. That human scent is driving him mad. She should be marked as pack property and disposed of before other packs use her against us. It's the only logical solution. Myra's blood went cold. Marked and disposed of? It means they'd brand you as belonging to the Blackthorn pack, then kill you so no one else could use you. Ash whispered in her ear. It's practical. It's murder, Mira hissed back. On the platform, Caden had gone very, very still. You dare, he said softly, question my judgment? Challenge my authority in front of the entire pack? Someone has to. Silas moved closer. You're not thinking clearly. That human. He didn't get to finish. Caden moved, but not all the way to wolf, not all the way to man. Something in between, something wrong. His bones cracked and reformed partway. Claws erupted from human hands. His face elongated, mouth full of fangs, eyes blazing gold-white. He had Silas by the throat before anyone could blink. I am your king, Caden snarled in a voice that was barely human. I have led this pack through war, famine, and betrayal. I have bled for you. Killed for you. And you dare question me over a debt of honor? Silas couldn't answer. He clawed at Caden's hand, but his brother's grip only tightened. Caden. Marcus's voice was steady. He's your blood. Your brother. He forgets his place. He's young and stupid. But he's loyal. Marcus moved closer slowly. You know this. The poison is talking, not you. For a terrible moment, Mira thought Caden would kill him anyway. His claws had drawn blood, and Silas's face was turning purple. The hall was dead silent, hundreds of wolves watching their king balance on the edge of murder. Then Caden dropped him. Silas collapsed, gasping. Caden stood over him, still caught between forms, his chest heaving. Get out of my sight, he rasped. Before I forget we share blood. Silas fled. The pack meeting dissolved in whispers and nervous energy. Mira watched them go, her heart racing. She'd seen Caden's violence in battle, but this was different. This was a loss of control, a glimpse of something barely contained. When the hall finally emptied, only she, Caden, Marcus, and Ash remained. Caden staggered, and Marcus caught him. The partial shift reversed itself in spasms that looked agonizing. When it was done, he was human again, but he looked like death. How long? Marcus asked quietly. Since yesterday. Caden's voice was raw. It's getting worse. What's getting worse? Mira demanded. Caden looked at her, and she saw fear in his eyes for the first time. Real, human fear. The poison. It didn't just weaken me, it's changing me. Making me feral. He touched his chest. Wolfsbane laced with silver burns away control, makes the wolf side dominant. I'm fighting it every moment. Fighting not to, he stopped. Not to what? Not to claim you. The words came out harsh. My wolf decided you're ours the moment you touched me. Every instinct I have screams to mark you, mate you, bind you to me so completely that no other wolf would dare touch you. It's taking everything I have not to give in. Myra's breath caught. That's why you nearly killed your brother. He threatened you. My wolf saw it as a challenge. Caden moved away from Marcus, standing on his own though it clearly cost him. You need to understand what you're dealing with, Mira. I'm not the hero in this story. I'm barely holding on to my humanity. And if I lose that battle... He met her eyes. Run. That night, alone in the room they'd given her, luxurious but still a cage, Mira couldn't sleep. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow held teeth. She'd left her old life to escape violence, to find peace in the wilderness. Instead, she'd stumbled into a world where violence was currency and peace was an illusion. A soft knock made her reach for the lamp. It's Ash, came the voice through the door. Can I come in? Mira opened the door to find her shadow carrying a tray with tea and something that smelled like bread. Thought you might be hungry, Ash said. Also thought you might want company. First night's always the hardest. You say that like you've done this before. I was human once. Ash set the tray down and poured tea with practiced efficiency. 20 years ago. Got bitten by a rogue wolf during a camping trip. Caden found me, brought me here, taught me how to survive the change. Mira stared. You were human? Born and raised in Seattle. Had a normal life, job, apartment, student loans. Then one night everything changed. Ash smiled sadly. The first shift is torture. Thought I'd die. Wanted to die. But Caden stayed with me through it all. Talked me through the pain, taught me control. Saved my life in every way that matters. Why are you telling me this? Because you're looking at him like he's a monster. And yeah, he can be. But he's also the reason I'm alive. The reason a lot of us are alive. Ash handed her a cup. Whatever you think you know about Caden Blackthorn, you don't know the whole story. Before Mira could respond, chaos erupted outside. Howls, dozens of them, full of alarm and fury. Ash was on her feet instantly, moving to the window. Silver fangs, she hissed. They're attacking the north wall. What do we do? You stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except. The window exploded inward. Ash shifted mid-leap, catching the attacking wolf before it could reach Mira. They crashed through furniture, snarling and snapping. More wolves poured through the broken window, too many, too fast. Mira ran for the door, but something grabbed her from behind. A hand over her mouth, an arm around her waist, lifting her off her feet. Got her, a male voice said. Move. She fought, kicked, bit down hard on the hand covering her mouth. The attacker cursed but didn't let go. She was dragged through a door she hadn't noticed before, a servant's passage, dark and narrow. Behind her, Ash's howls of rage faded. They moved through darkness, down stairs that went deeper into the mountain. Myra's mind raced. Silverfang's attacking was a diversion. This was the real threat, someone from inside the compound. The traitor who'd poisoned Caden. They emerged into a cavern lit by torches. Her captors shoved her forward, and Mira stumbled, catching herself against cold stone. When she looked up, she saw 3 figures waiting. 2 were wolves she didn't recognize, large and scarred, mercenaries by the look of them. The third was human. A woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. Hello, Mira, the woman said. We have so much to discuss. Who are you? Someone who knows what you really are. The woman smiled. Did Caden tell you yet? About your blood? Myra's heart stopped. What about my blood? You're not human, dear. Not entirely. The woman moved closer. Your grandmother was Evangeline Ashford, a powerful alpha's daughter who fell in love with a human and was exiled for it. She gave up her wolf to be with him, used blood magic to suppress it. But that power doesn't disappear. It just sleeps, waiting. You're lying. Am I? The woman tilted her head. Then why could you save Caden when no human should have been able to touch wolfsbane poisoned blood without dying? Why does your scent drive him wild? Why does the blood debt bind so strongly? Myra's mind reeled. Her grandmother Evangeline had died when Mira was 10. A quiet, gentle woman who told stories about wolves and magic that Mira had thought were fairy tales. You're a lost blood, the woman continued. Human raised but werewolf by birth. And that makes you incredibly valuable. To who? To everyone, darling. To the pack that claims you, to the alpha who mates you, to anyone who wants to use your dormant bloodline. The woman's smile turned sharp. Caden knows. That's why he's so desperate to keep you. Not because of honor or debt, but because a lost blood mate could give him an heir powerful enough to unite all the packs under Blackthorn rule. I don't believe you. Then ask him yourself. If you ever see him again. The woman nodded to the wolves. Take her to Damon Crow. Let the Silver Fang Alpha decide what she's worth. They grabbed Myra's arms, dragging her toward a tunnel that led deeper into darkness. Above, she heard howls of battle, Caden's voice roaring her name. But the sound grew distant as they pulled her down into the mountain's heart, and she realized with cold horror that the traitor had been one step ahead all along. The poison, the attack, the kidnapping, it was all part of a larger plan. And she was the prize they'd been fighting for from the very beginning. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. Mira woke to cold stone beneath her cheek and the smell of damp earth. Her head throbbed where someone had struck her. Her wrists were bound with silver chains that burned against her skin, not enough to kill, but enough to hurt. Enough to remind her she was prey. She forced her eyes open. The cell was small, carved from raw rock, lit by a single torch that cast dancing shadows on the walls. No windows. One heavy wooden door reinforced with iron. Finally awake. The voice came from the shadows. I was beginning to think I'd hit you too hard. A woman stepped into the light, and Myra's breath caught. She recognized her from the pack meeting, tall and lean, with dark red hair braided down her back and the kind of beauty that came from strength rather than softness. She'd stood near Caden during the gathering, had moved with the confidence of someone who belonged at his side. Vera, Mira whispered, remembering the name. Lead hunter of the Blackthorn pack. Caden's most trusted warrior. Vera crouched in front of Mira, her green eyes cold as winter. For 30 years, I've fought beside him, bled for him, killed for him. I've been loyal when others betrayed him. Strong when he needed strength. And do you know what I got for it? Mira said nothing. Nothing. Vera's smile was bitter. He never saw me as anything but a weapon. A tool. Even after his mate died, even after he swore he'd never love again, he still never looked at me the way a man looks at a woman. The way he looks at you. I didn't ask for this. No, you just saved his life and ruined everything. Vera stood, pacing the small cell like a caged animal. I spent years planning this. Years building an alliance with Damon Crow, creating a poison strong enough to kill an Alpha King. I was going to let Caden die with honor, take power as his successor, unite the packs under new leadership. It would have been clean. Painless. Murder is never painless. Vera laughed. You think this world runs on mercy? On kindness? Caden rules through violence, Mira. He's kept the packs in line for a decade by being the most vicious, the most brutal, the most willing to kill. That's not leadership, that's tyranny. I was going to free us from it. By working with Damon Crowe? From what I've heard, he's worse. Damon is ambitious. Controllable. Vera stopped in front of Mira again. Or he was, until you awakened something in Caden that I thought was dead. Now everything's falling apart. She pulled something from her belt. A mirror, small and circular, its surface swirling like oil on water. I want you to see what you've done. Vera whispered something in a language Mira didn't recognize. The mirror's surface cleared, and Mira saw Caden. But not the man she'd left behind. This Caden was barely human. His eyes blazed permanent gold, his hands tipped with claws even in human form. He stood in what looked like the compound's main hall, and it was destroyed, furniture smashed, walls gouged with claw marks, blood splattered across the stone. Marcus stood a careful distance away, speaking in low, urgent tones. But Caden wasn't listening. He was searching, his head moving with predatory awareness, nostrils flared. He's hunting, Vera said softly. Hasn't slept since you disappeared. Hasn't eaten. He's torn through half the compound, killed a dozen of his own wolves who tried to restrain him. The poison in his system is winning, and your absence is accelerating it. Myra's chest tightened. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand what you've done to him. What you've awakened. Vera's voice dropped to a whisper. A mate bond, Mira. The rarest, most powerful connection in our world. The moon goddess herself marks true mates, binds their souls. And you? You're his. That's impossible. I barely know him. The moon doesn't care about knowledge. It cares about destiny. Vera touched the mirror, and the image shifted. Now Mira saw Caden in the forest, ripping apart trees with his bare hands, howling with a sound that was pure anguish. If you die, he'll go completely feral. His wolf will take over permanently, and his own pack will have to put him down like a rabid dog. Horror flooded through Mira. You're going to kill me. Eventually. Vera's smile was cruel. But first, I want him to suffer the way I've suffered. I want him to feel helpless, desperate, broken. Then, when he's completely lost to the wolf, when there's nothing left of the man I loved. Then I'll end you. And him. She stood, heading for the door. You're sick, Mira said. Vera paused. No. I'm in love. There's a difference. She closed the door behind her, and Mira heard the heavy bolt slide home. Alone in the darkness, Mira fought against the silver chains. They burned, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Because if what Vera said was true, if she and Caden were bound by something neither of them had chosen, then his death would be her fault. And she'd already had enough blood on her hands to last a lifetime. Time became meaningless in the cell. Vera came and went, sometimes bringing food, sometimes just bringing the mirror to show Mira what was happening above. Each time, Caden was worse. She watched him attack Marcus, watched his brother Silas try to talk sense into him only to be thrown through a wall. She watched the pack meeting where Marcus tried to explain to hundreds of frightened wolves that their king was unraveling because of a mate bond none of them had known existed. She's a lost blood, Marcus told the assembled pack, his voice heavy. Royal lineage through Evangeline Ashford, who was sister to Caden's grandfather. The moon recognized their bloodline connection and forged a bond that can't be broken. Then we find her, Silas said. We bring her back. It's not that simple. Damon Crowe has her, and he's fortified his territory. An attack would mean war, something we can't afford with Caden in this state. In the mirror, Mira watched Caden's head snap up at her name. For just a moment, his eyes cleared. Mira, he growled. Find her. Bring her home. Then the gold returned, and he was lost again. Vera turned off the mirror. Beautiful, isn't it? Watching the mighty fall. But something in her voice had changed. A roughness, a strain. Mira looked at her carefully for the first time in hours. Vera's skin had a grayish tinge. Her hands trembled slightly as she set down the mirror. "You're sick," Mira said. "I'm fine." "No." Myra's mind raced, her veterinary training kicking in despite the circumstances. "You've been building immunity to the poison, haven't you? Dosing yourself with small amounts so you could handle the wolfsbane and silver without dying." Vera's expression flickered. "But wolfsbane doesn't work like that. It's cumulative, every dose adds to the last, building up in your system until..." Myra's eyes widened. "You're dying. The poison is killing you too." "Shut up. How long have you been shifting? Days? A week?" Mira pressed. "Your wolf is deteriorating. I can see it in your eyes, the way you move. You're in pain." "I said shut up." Vera's hand cracked across Myra's face. But Mira had seen the truth. Vera was dying, and she knew it. That's why she was rushing her plan, why she was so desperate to make Caden suffer before the end. A woman with nothing to lose was the most dangerous kind. The opportunity came 3 days later, or what Mira guessed was 3 days. Time was fluid in the dark. Vera came to bring food, moving slower than usual. When she set down the tray, her hands shook badly enough to rattle the dishes. "You need medical attention," Mira said quietly. "I need you to be quiet. I'm a veterinarian. I know poisons, I know how to." "You're nothing." But Vera's voice lacked conviction. She was sweating despite the cold, her breathing labored. When she turned to leave, her leg buckled. Mira moved on instinct. The silver chains burned her wrists, but she'd been working them loose for days, ignoring the pain. They came free as Vera fell, and Mira was on her in a heartbeat. It wasn't a fair fight. Vera was dying, weakened, barely able to shift. But she still had a warrior's instincts. She threw Mira off, slamming her into the wall hard enough to see stars. "You stupid girl," Vera snarled. "You think you can beat me?" She began to shift, but the transformation was wrong. Her bones cracked out of alignment, first sprouting in patches, one eye changing while the other stayed human. She screamed in agony. Mira grabbed the torch from the wall and swung it like a club. The impact sent Vera sprawling. She lay there, caught between forms, whimpering. "I'm sorry," Mira whispered. And she meant it. Vera was a monster, but she was a monster made by love and rejection and pain. Mira ran. The tunnel outside her cell branched in 3 directions. She chose left on instinct, running until her lungs burned. Behind her, she heard howls, Vera's loyalists, coming to investigate. The caves were a maze. Mira took turns randomly, feeling her way through darkness, guided only by the faint movement of air that suggested openings ahead. Her heart hammered. Her injured shoulder screamed. And something else was happening. Her senses were sharpening. She could smell things she shouldn't be able to. The difference between stale air and fresh, the scent of wolves tracking her from hundreds of yards away. Her vision adjusted to the darkness until she could see almost perfectly. Her wolf was waking up. "No," Mira whispered. "Not now. Please not now." But her body didn't listen. Pain shot through her bones as they began to shift, preparing for a transformation she wasn't ready for. She stumbled, crying out. Footsteps behind her. Multiple sets, moving fast. Mira forced herself forward, fighting the shift, fighting her body's betrayal. The tunnel opened into a larger cavern with multiple exits. She chose one and ran, her movements becoming faster, more fluid. More wolf-like. Behind her, someone shouted. "There. The human." "Not human," a voice in her head whispered. "Not anymore." Mira burst through another tunnel and found herself in a massive cave lit by natural light filtering from cracks high above. And blocking her path stood Damon Crow. She recognized him from the mirror, younger than Caden, with silver blonde hair and eyes like blue ice. handsome in a way that felt dangerous. He smiled when he saw her. Mira Ashford. The little lost blood who started this war. He moved closer, predatory and casual. You've caused me quite a bit of trouble. Let me go. I don't think so. You're too valuable. Damon circled her like she was prey. Caden's mate. Royal bloodline. Do you have any idea what you're worth? Every pack in North America would pay a fortune for you. Or kill for you. I'm not anyone's property. You keep saying that. But the wolves at your back would disagree. He gestured behind her. Mira turned to see a dozen wolves emerging from the tunnels, Damon's pack, surrounding her, cutting off escape. It's over, Damon said. You can come quietly, or we can. The cave exploded with violence. Caden came through the north tunnel like a storm-given flesh. He was barely recognizable. More monster than man, moving on all fours even in human form, his body caught in a permanent half-shift. His eyes blazed so bright they cast shadows. He killed 3 of Damon's wolves before anyone could react. Caden. Damon's voice held shock and something like fear. You're supposed to be contained. Caden's answer was a roar that shook stones from the ceiling. They fought, and it was nothing like the controlled violence Mira had seen before. This was primal, desperate, vicious. Damon was faster, younger, used his full wolf form against Caden's unstable half-shift. But Caden fought like he had nothing left to lose. Mira watched in horror as Damon's claws raked across Caden's chest, opening wounds that should have been fatal. Caden didn't even slow. He caught Damon's throat, but the younger alpha twisted free, leaving fur and blood in Caden's grasp. He's going to die, someone whispered behind Mira. She turned to see Marcus emerging from another tunnel with a dozen blackthorn wolves. The poison, the mate bond breaking, the feral state, his body can't take much more. Then stop him. No one can stop him. He'll fight until he dies or you're safe. Marcus looked at her with ancient, sad eyes. That's what a mate bond means. Mira turned back to the fight. Damon had Caden pinned, jaws closing around his throat. Something inside Mira snapped. Heat flooded her body, followed by pain unlike anything she'd ever known. Her bones were breaking, reforming, her muscles tearing and rebuilding. She tried to scream, but what came out was a howl. Her first shift was agony and chaos. Incomplete, unstable, her body fighting itself. But enough. Enough to distract Damon. The silver alpha's head snapped toward her, eyes wide. Impossible. Caden's claws found his throat. The fight ended in a spray of blood. Damon fell, choking on his own death. Caden stood over him, chest heaving, covered in wounds that were already healing now that the threat was gone. Then his eyes found Mira. She was caught between forms, human face, wolf eyes, hands with claws, body covered in patches of fur. She looked like a nightmare. Felt like one. Mira. Caden's voice was rough, barely understandable. You shifted. Then his legs gave out. Marcus caught him before he hit the ground. We need to get him back now. He's got minutes, maybe less. The world blurred. Mira tried to shift back but didn't know how. Her body was chaos, instinct fighting control. Someone, Ash, she realized distantly, wrapped a blanket around her and guided her forward. They half-carried Caden through the tunnels, back toward the compound. Mira followed in a daze, her unpracticed wolf senses overwhelming her with input, smells, sounds, the taste of blood in the air. Behind them, Damon's pack scattered. Leaderless, they'd fracture and join other packs or become rogues. The silver fangs were finished. But the cost. Back at the compound, they brought Caden to a room Mira hadn't seen before. Larger than hers, dominated by an enormous bed and a fireplace that could have roasted a whole deer. His den, she realized. Healers swarmed around him, wolves with knowledge of herbs and magic, trying to stabilize him. Mira stood by the door, still caught in her partial shift, watching helplessly. Marcus found her there an hour later. You should rest. Let them work. Will he die? I don't know. Marcus's honesty was brutal. The poison should have killed him weeks ago. The mate bond breaking should have driven him completely feral. And what he just did, tracking you through miles of caves, fighting Damon in his condition, he shook his head. He's too stubborn to die. But stubborn only goes so far. Vera, Mira said suddenly. She's still out there. She's the one who. We know. We found evidence in her quarters, correspondence with Damon, plans for the coup, everything. Marcus's expression darkened. She was my friend for 30 years. I never suspected. That's on me. She's dying. The poison she used on Caden, she's been dosing herself. We'll find her. Marcus touched Myra's shoulder carefully. But right now, you need to shift back. The first shift is hardest. The longer you stay caught between, the harder it gets. I don't know how. Yes, you do. Close your eyes. Think about your human form. Remember what it feels like to have human hands, human eyes. Feel your bones, your skin. Breathe. Mira closed her eyes and tried. It took 20 agonizing minutes, but finally, the shift reversed. She collapsed against the wall, naked and shaking. Ash appeared with clothes. You did good, she said softly. First shift under pressure, and you still maintained enough control to help. That's rare. I was terrified. Everyone is. But you didn't let it stop you. Ash helped her dress. The king will recover. He has to. He's got something to live for now. 3 days passed before Caden woke. Mira sat by his bedside, as she had every day, watching his chest rise and fall. The healers had done their work, cleaned the wolfsbane from his system, treated his wounds, given him potions that smelled of earth and moonlight. But it was the mate bond that saved him, they whispered. The fact that his mate survived, that she was near, pulled him back from the edge. When his eyes finally opened, they were gold, but clear. Human. Aware. Mira. Her name was a breath, a prayer. You're an idiot, she said, and was horrified to find herself crying. You could have died. You should have died. And you just ran into that cave like my mate was in danger. Caden's hand found hers. His grip was weak, but it was there. I would do it again. That's what worries me. They sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, Mira heard the compound coming back to life, repairs being made, normal routines resuming. Damon Crow was dead. The immediate threat was over. But they both knew it wasn't finished. Marcus told me, Caden said finally. About your grandmother. About the bloodline. Evangeline Ashford was your great-aunt. We're cousins, technically. Distant cousins. It happens sometimes in royal bloodlines. The moon recognizes the connection, strengthens it. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I didn't want this. Didn't want to feel again. After Elena died, I swore I'd never. His voice broke. Tell me about her. So he did. About Elena, his first mate, who'd been gentle and kind and completely wrong for an alpha king. About how he'd loved her anyway, tried to protect her, and failed. About finding her body on his doorstep, throat cut, a message from his enemies that even a king could be hurt. I spent 10 years making sure no one could hurt me that way again, Caden said. I built walls, became cold, chose violence over vulnerability. It kept me alive. Kept the pack safe. And then I showed up. And then you showed up. He looked at her with those impossible gold eyes. You walked into my death and pulled me back. You didn't know me, didn't owe me anything, but you saved me anyway. And my wolf, he touched his chest. My wolf knew what my heart was too broken to accept. You're mine, Mira. You've always been mine. I don't know if I can be anyone's. I know. And I'm not asking you to decide right now. Caden's grip tightened. But you need to know what's coming. The Wolf Moon Gathering is in 2 weeks. Every pack alpha in North America will be there. And they'll all know I have a mate now. Is that a problem? It's a target. Some will see it as weakness, a king bound to a newly awakened wolf. Others will see you as a way to gain power through alliance or other means. His expression darkened. And Vera is still out there. The evidence we found suggests she wasn't working alone. There are more traitors, and they're planning something for the gathering. Then don't go. I have to. If I don't show, they'll say I'm afraid. The packs will fracture. Everything my father built, everything I've maintained, it'll collapse into chaos and war. He sat up with effort. But I can't go without you. The mate bond is too new, too unstable. Being separated for that long could drive you feral again, Mira finished. Yes. She pulled her hand away, standing to pace the room. Through the window, she could see the compound, wolves training in the yard, children playing near the woods, a community that had existed for generations. All of it depending on the man in the bed behind her. There has to be another way, she said. There is. Marcus's voice came from the doorway. Sorry. Didn't mean to eavesdrop. But I think you need to hear this. He entered, closing the door behind him. In his hands, he carried an old leather book, its pages yellowed with age. Pack law, Marcus said, setting it on the bed. Every rule, every tradition, every precedent for the last 500 years. I've been reading it for 3 days straight, looking for options. He opened to a marked page. There's one possibility. A challenge for Alpha. Caden's expression went dark. No. Hear me out. Mira is royal blood, lost blood, but still legitimate. If she challenges for Alpha at the gathering, she could establish her own strength, prove she's not a weakness but a power in her own right. She's been a wolf for 3 days, Caden growled. I know. But she has advantages, intelligence, veterinary knowledge that translates to understanding wolf anatomy and vulnerabilities, and most importantly, she's not bound by pack thinking. She sees things we don't. What exactly would this challenge involve? Mira asked. Marcus met her eyes. You'd have to beat Caden in ritual combat. Not to the death, but to submission. Prove you're strong enough to rule beside him as an equal, not just a mate to be protected. That's insane. That's pack law. Marcus smiled grimly. No one has ever survived challenging Caden Blackthorn. You'd have to be the first. But if you succeed, if you can even hold your own against him, you'd earn the respect of every alpha there. They'd see you as a threat, not a target. Caden was already shaking his head. She's not trained. She doesn't know how to fight as a wolf. I could kill her by accident. Then train her, Marcus said simply. You have 2 weeks. It's not much, but it's something. This is crazy, Mira said. This is survival, Marcus corrected. The Wolf Moon Gathering will happen whether you're ready or not. And the traitors, whoever they are, will make their move. You can show up as Caden's weakness and hope he protects you. Or you can show up as a threat in your own right and make them think twice. He left the book on the bed and departed, closing the door softly behind him. Mira and Caden stared at each other across the room. I don't want to hurt you, he said finally. I don't want to be helpless. Mira moved back to the bed, looking at the ancient text. My whole life, I've been trying to escape violence. Ran from Daniel, hid in the mountains, built walls around myself. And it didn't work. Violence found me anyway. So you want to embrace it? I want to survive it. She met his eyes. I'm not asking you to go easy on me. I'm asking you to teach me how to fight like a wolf. How to hold my own in your world. Because whether I like it or not, this is my world now too. Caden was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, a real smile, not the broken, bitter thing she'd seen before. You're either very brave or very foolish. Probably both. Good. You'll need both to survive what's coming. He held out his hand. 2 weeks. I'll teach you everything I can. And at the gathering, we'll face whatever comes together. Mira took his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers, the strength even in his weakened state. And somewhere deep in her chest, where her wolf now lived, she felt the mate bond strengthen. Not a chain, not a cage, but a connection. A promise of protection that went both ways. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the mountains gold and crimson. In 2 weeks, the wolf moon would rise, and every alpha in North America would gather to test Caden's strength. And Mira would have to prove she was more than just the human who saved the Alpha King. She'd have to prove she could stand beside him as his equal. Or die trying. But in a corner of the compound, in a cave system where no wolf had thought to look, Vera watched them through her spelled mirror. Blood trickled from her nose. Her body was failing, dying from the poison in her veins. But she was still alive. Still dangerous. And she still had 2 weeks to destroy everything Caden Blackthorn loved. A slow, painful smile crossed her face as she watched Mira take Caden's hand. Enjoy your happiness while it lasts, Vera whispered to the mirror. Because at the wolf moon gathering, I'm going to take it all away. The mirror went dark. And in the shadows, something ancient and hungry stirred, drawn by the scent of betrayal, blood, and a mate bond that had awakened powers better left sleeping. The real war hadn't started yet. But it was coming. Chapter 4. 3 weeks of training had turned Myra's body into something she barely recognized. She stood in the compound's training ring at dawn, sweat soaking through her shirt, muscles screaming from hours of drills. Marcus circled her like a predator, his steel-gray wolf form massive and unrelenting. Again, he growled, the word distorted through his wolf's mouth. Mira shifted, faster now, the transformation taking seconds instead of agonizing minutes. Her wolf was smaller than Marcus's, sleeker, built for speed rather than power. She lunged, feinting left before pivoting right, going for his exposed flank. Marcus caught her mid-leap and slammed her into the ground. The impact drove the air from her lungs. She shifted back to human, gasping. Better, Marcus said, returning to human form. He offered her a hand. You're starting to think like a wolf instead of reacting like a human. But you're still holding back. I'm trying not to die, Mira wheezed. At the gathering, holding back will get you killed. Marcus's expression was grave. Are you sure about this? There's still time to change your mind. Mira pulled herself to her feet, ignoring the pain. Through the training ring's fence, she could see Caden watching from the main hall's balcony. He'd been there every morning, watching her train, his face unreadable. They hadn't spoken about what was coming. Not really. Every conversation danced around it, the wolf moon gathering, her plan to challenge for co-leadership, the ancient law that said a mate could fight in an alpha's place. I'm sure, Mira said. He's terrified, you know. Marcus handed her a towel. Hasn't slept more than a few hours a night since you started training. He knows what you're planning, and it's eating him alive. Then he should talk to me about it. He's an alpha king. Talking about feelings isn't exactly his strength. Marcus smiled grimly. But loving you is destroying his famous control. I've never seen him like this, protective, vulnerable, almost human. Is that a good thing? For him? Probably. For the pack? Marcus shrugged. We'll find out at the gathering. They left for the Cascade Mountains 2 days later. The journey took them through wilderness so dense and ancient it felt like stepping back in time. Caden led a procession of 50 wolves, his inner circle, his most trusted warriors. The rest of the pack would stay behind to protect the compound. Mira rode beside Caden for the first day, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. She could feel his tension in the rigid set of his shoulders, the way his hands gripped the reins too tight. As sunset painted the mountains gold, they made camp in a clearing beside a glacial lake. Mira found herself standing at the water's edge, watching the reflection of the rising moon. "You're planning to challenge me." Caden's voice came from behind her. Not a question. A statement. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have tried to stop me." Mira turned to face him. "And we both know I'm right. If I show up as just your mate, protected, sheltered, weak, they'll use me against you. But if I prove I can fight, if I earn my place by pack law, you could die." Caden closed the distance between them, his gold eyes blazing in the twilight. "Do you understand that? You've been a wolf for 3 weeks. You'll be facing opponents who've trained their entire lives. I've seen alphas torn apart in challenge circles. I've killed opponents in challenge circles. Then you know I have to do this." "No. No, you don't." His hands came up to cup her face, and Mira felt the tremor in them. "I'll give you anything, Mira. Anything. You want co-leadership? I'll grant it. You want to change pack law? We'll do it. You want to leave, go back to your old life? I'll let you go. His voice broke. Just don't make me watch you fight. Don't make me stand there and do nothing while you're hurt. I can't. I can't." Myra's heart cracked at the raw fear in his voice. She covered his hands with hers. "I know what I'm asking of you. But Caden, listen to me, I've spent my whole life running from violence. From Daniel's fists, from my own fear, from anything that might hurt me. And it never worked. The violence always found me anyway. So you're choosing to run toward it? I'm choosing to face it on my own terms." She held his gaze. "I love you. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But I love you, and that means I can't be the reason you lose everything you've built. I have to be strong enough to stand beside you." Caden's eyes closed. "You love me." "Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately," he repeated with a broken laugh. "Gods, Mira. I love you too. Have since the moment you looked at a dying wolf and decided to save him anyway. I fought it, tried to tell myself it was just the mate bond, just instinct. But it's not. It's you. Your courage, your compassion, your absolute refusal to be anyone's victim." He opened his eyes, and they were wet. "And that's why I'm so terrified. Because I've already lost one mate. If I lose you too. You won't." Mira pulled him down to her, kissing him with all the fear and love and desperation she'd been holding back for weeks. "You won't lose me. I promise." It was a promise she had no right to make. But she made it anyway. That night, they made love beside the lake, under the watching moon. It was desperate and tender and fierce, 2 broken people trying to make each other whole. Afterward, Mira lay in Caden's arms and felt the mate bond pulse between them like a second heartbeat. "If you die," Caden whispered against her hair, "I'll follow you. You need to know that. If you don't come out of that circle, neither will I. Then I guess I'll have to win." The Wolf Moon gathering grounds were sacred territory, a massive valley in the Cascade Mountains ringed by ancient standing stones. Wolves had gathered here for 1,000 years to settle disputes, forge alliances, and witness the rise and fall of alphas. When they arrived, 200 wolves were already there. The sheer scale of it stole Myra's breath. Wolves of every size and color filled the valley, grays and blacks and browns, massive timber wolves and lean desert runners. The air thrummed with power, with barely contained aggression. Every alpha present turned to watch as Caden's procession entered. "They're sizing you up," Marcus murmured beside Mira. "Looking for weakness, calculating whether they can take what's yours." "I'm not anyone's," Mira said. "Tell them that." They made camp on the valley's eastern edge, claiming territory by right of kingship. Other alphas came to pay their respects, or to issue veiled threats disguised as courtesy. Mira met them all, refusing to lower her eyes, refusing to show fear. She was learning to think like a wolf. The gathering officially began at moonrise. A massive bonfire was lit in the valley center, and the alphas gathered around it in a hierarchy determined by strength and age. Caden stood at the fire's edge, and Mira stood beside him, aware of every eye on her. An ancient female wolf, white-furred and scarred, spoke first. Caden Blackthorn. You come to this gathering with a mate bond displayed for all to see. This is new. This is curious. The bond is private business, Elder Ruth, Caden said carefully. Nothing is private at the gathering. Ruth's eyes, milky with age but still sharp, fixed on Mira. You are the lost blood. The human-raised royal who saved our king. I am. And now you stand beside him as what? Mate? Equal? Pet? The insult rippled through the crowd. Mira felt Caden tense beside her, but she stepped forward before he could respond. I stand beside him as his choice, Mira said clearly. And as my own woman. I'm not a symbol or a trophy. I'm a wolf who's earned her place. Earned? A male voice cut through the darkness. You've been a wolf for 3 weeks. You've earned nothing. The speaker stepped into the firelight, and Myra's blood ran cold. Vera. She looked like death warmed over, skin gray, eyes sunken, moving with the jerky gait of someone in constant pain. But she was alive, and she wasn't alone. 11 alphas stepped forward with her, forming a line across from Caden. 12 packs, Vera said, her voice rough but triumphant. United under a single goal, to end the Blackthorn tyranny. Caden has ruled through fear and violence for too long. It's time for new leadership. This is treason, Marcus growled. This is pack law. One of the alphas, a massive male with a scarred muzzle, bared his teeth. We challenge Caden Blackthorn to blood circle. 12 against 1. If he wins, we submit. If we win, the western packs are divided among the victors. The valley went silent. Blood circle was ancient law, a fight to the death with no mercy, no surrender. By tradition, Caden had to accept or forfeit his kingship. But Mira saw what others might miss, the faint shimmer of silver dust coating the ground where the challenge circle had been drawn. Poison. The same mixture that had nearly killed Caden before. They've rigged it, she whispered to Caden. The circle is poisoned. I know. His voice was flat. But if I refuse, I lose everything. Then don't accept. Mira stepped forward before she could overthink it. I invoke the right of mate challenge. The silence that followed was absolute. Even Vera looked shocked. What? By ancient law, a potential mate may fight in an alpha's place, Mira said, praying Marcus's research was right. If I win, I claim co-alpha status with equal authority. If I lose, she met Caden's eyes. Then you can mourn us both. No. Caden's voice was strangled. Mira, no. You can't. By pack law, you can't refuse my challenge without denying I'm your mate, Mira said softly. And if you do that, the bond breaks. Forever. She watched the realization, and the horror, dawn in his eyes. She'd trapped him. Used pack law and his own love against him. I'm sorry, she whispered. But this is the only way. Elder Ruth stepped forward, her ancient face unreadable. The right of mate challenge is valid. Caden Blackthorn, do you accept this woman as your mate and her right to fight in your place? Caden's hands clenched into fists. Mira saw him wrestling with every instinct, every fear, every protective impulse. Finally, he spoke. I accept. The bond between them flared so bright Mira gasped. In that moment, she felt everything he felt, terror, pride, love so fierce it burned. Then let the challenge begin, Ruth declared. The blood circle was 20 feet across, marked with silver dust that glittered in the moonlight. Mira stripped off her jacket, standing in just a tank top and jeans. 5 opponents entered the circle with her, the scarred Alpha, 3 others she didn't recognize, and Vera. Outside the circle, 200 wolves watched in absolute silence. Caden stood at the edge, held back by Marcus and Silas, his eyes blazing gold. "Last chance to back out," Vera said. "Die with dignity instead of being torn apart." Mira shifted. The transformation was smooth now, practiced. Her wolf was smaller than all of her opponents, built for speed, not strength. But she'd spent 3 weeks learning to use that. The scarred Alpha lunged first. Mira dodged, using his momentum against him. Her teeth found his hind leg, tearing through tendon. He went down howling, and she was already moving, targeting the next opponent. The fight was chaos, blood and fur and snapping jaws. Mira fought like she'd learned from watching Caden, brutal, efficient, targeting vulnerabilities. She caught one wolf's throat and used the silver dust against another, kicking it into his eyes. But there were too many. Claws raked across her ribs. Teeth sank into her shoulder. She went down, and suddenly Vera was on top of her, jaws closing around her throat. "You should have stayed human," Vera snarled. Mira shifted back, human hands grabbing Vera's muzzle, thumbs pressing into the soft tissue behind her jaw. Vera yelped and released her. Mira rolled, shifted again, and this time she went for the kill. She'd killed 3 by the time she cornered Vera against the circle's edge. The older wolf was bleeding from a dozen wounds, dying from the poison she'd used to destroy herself. "Do it," Vera gasped, back in human form. "End it." "Why?" Mira shifted back, standing over her. Blood dripped from her own wounds, but she was still standing. "Why betray him? He trusted you." "I loved him." Vera's eyes filled with tears. "For 30 years, I loved him. And he never saw me. Never wanted me. Then Elena came along, soft, weak, human, and he loved her instantly. It wasn't fair." "So you tried to kill him?" "I tried to save him." Vera's voice broke. From the pain, from the vulnerability, from ever feeling what he felt when Elena died. "I was protecting him." "By murdering him?" "She wasn't murdered by enemies." Vera's laugh was bitter. "Caden never told you the truth, did he? Elena wasn't killed by rivals. She was possessed, dark magic, ancient spirit, trying to use her to kill Caden in his sleep. He woke up to find her standing over him with a knife. And he had to choose." Myra's heart stopped. "He killed her himself," Vera whispered. "Snapped her neck before the possession could make her kill him. And it destroyed him. The guilt, the pain, it broke something in him that never healed. I watched him suffer for years. So when I had the chance to make sure he never bonded again, never felt that pain again," she met Myra's eyes. "I thought I was saving him. I thought I was showing him love." "That's not love," Mira said quietly. "That's control. That's fear." "Maybe." Vera coughed blood. "But you'll understand someday. When you've loved someone long enough to watch them destroy themselves. When you do anything to save them, even if it means losing them." Her eyes drifted to where Caden stood, held back by his pack. "Kill me or don't. I'm dead either way." The poison saw to that. Mira looked at Vera, at this woman who'd spent 30 years loving a man who couldn't love her back, who'd twisted that love into something dark and consuming. She thought about Daniel, about the violence that came from love gone wrong. "I won't kill you," Mira said. "But you're banished from all pack lands. Rogues don't get mercy twice." She shifted and limped out of the circle. The valley erupted. Wolves howled, some in triumph, others in outrage. By pack law, Mira had won. She'd survived the blood circle, defeated her opponents. She was alpha now. Caden reached her first, shifting mid-run, catching her as her legs gave out. "You're alive," he breathed against her hair. "Gods, you're alive." Told you I'd win, Mira managed. Healers swarmed around them, but Caden wouldn't let them take her. He carried her back to their camp himself, laying her on furs beside their fire. Marcus brought the healer, and Mira drifted in and out of consciousness as her wounds were cleaned and stitched. When she finally came back to herself, dawn was breaking. Caden sat beside her, and his face. He looked different. Lighter. Like something that had been broken for years had finally healed. Vera told me, Mira said quietly. About Elena. Caden's expression shuddered. I should have told you myself. Why didn't you? Because it's my greatest shame. I killed my own mate. Doesn't matter that she was possessed, that I had no choice. I killed her. His voice broke. And I swore I'd never put myself in that position again. Never care enough that losing someone could destroy me. But you care about me. I love you. He touched her face with infinite gentleness. And watching you in that circle, knowing I couldn't help, that I might lose you, he stopped. I understand now. What Vera was trying to do. The fear that drives people to control the ones they love. Because I wanted to drag you out of that circle. Wanted to break pack law, start a war, anything to keep you safe. But you didn't. No. Because you wouldn't be who you are if I took your choices away. And I love who you are, fierce and brave and absolutely terrifying. He smiled through tears. You're my equal, Mira. In strength, in courage, in stubbornness. I see that now. Mira pulled him down to her, ignoring her screaming muscles. Then accept me. Not as your mate to protect, but as your partner. Your equal. Always. That night, under the wolf moon's full light, they completed the mate bond. Not the traditional way, with Caden marking Mira and claiming dominance. Instead, they marked each other. Equal bites on equal necks, equal bonds forged in equal love. The valley witnessed it. 200 alphas watched as Caden Blackthorn and Mira Ashford bound themselves to each other as equals, something that hadn't been done in 1,000 years of pack history. When it was finished, when the bonds snapped into place with a force that shook them both, Caden shifted. For the first time in 10 years, his wolf was whole. No poison, no feral edges, no instability. Just pure, powerful alpha wolf, and beside him, Myra's smaller, sleeker form. They ran through the valley together as the sun rose, two wolves moving as one. Behind them, the pack structure they'd just shattered would have to be rebuilt. Ahead, enemies who believed females should never hold power would rise against them. But in that moment, running through the dawn with the mate bonds singing between them, none of it mattered. They were whole. They were together. They were enough. 6 months later, everything had changed. Mira stood on the compound's balcony, watching the sun set over mountains she'd learned to call home. Her hand rested on her swollen belly. Twins, the healers said. Unheard of in werewolf pregnancies, but not surprising given her bloodline. The Western packs had adapted to their new leadership structure. Some grudgingly, others enthusiastically. Mira had proven herself not just as a fighter, but as a strategist, a healer, a leader who valued intelligence as much as strength. But there were still enemies. Ancient wolves who whispered that she'd corrupted pack law, that females with power were unnatural. Marcus dealt with most of them, but Mira knew darker threats lurked beyond their borders. You're thinking too hard again. Caden's arms wrapped around her from behind, his hands covering hers on her belly. The twins can probably feel your stress. Then they'd better get used to it. Their mother's apparently destined to upend 1,000-year-old traditions. Their mother is incredible. He kissed her neck where his mate Mark sat. And their father is ridiculously proud of her. Mira leaned back against him, allowing herself a moment of peace. These moments were rare, between running the packs, preparing for the twins, and navigating the complex politics of the wolf world. A knock interrupted the moment. My king. My queen. A young wolf, barely 18, stood at the door, breathless. There's someone here. A rogue. She says she has a message. For Mira specifically. Mira and Caden exchanged glances. Bring her up, Caden said. The rogue was ancient, easily 70s or 80s in human years, with white hair and eyes that had seen too much. She bowed to them both, and when she straightened, those eyes locked on Mira with unsettling intensity. Mira Ashford. Born Mira Evangeline Ashford. Granddaughter of the last female alpha. Myra's breath caught. How do you know? Your grandmother sent me. Evangeline Ashford. She's alive, hidden for 40 years in the far north. And she's summoning you. The woman pulled out a letter, sealed with wax and marked with a symbol Mira didn't recognize. It's time you learned what you really are. And why the moon goddess has been waiting for you. Caden's hand tightened on Myra's shoulder. Evangeline Ashford is dead. She died 30 years ago. That's what she wanted everyone to believe. The rogue smiled. But death is easier to fake than you'd think. Especially when you're running from wolves who tried to murder you for challenging pack law exactly the way your granddaughter just did. The letter felt heavy in Myra's hands. Dangerous. Full of secrets that would change everything. There's more, the rogue said. Your grandmother didn't just leave the pack. She was pregnant when she fled. With twins. A boy and a girl. Myra's world tilted. My mother was a twin. Your mother was the girl. The boy, your uncle, stayed in the wolf world. Rose to power in the northern packs. And he's been looking for his sister's daughter for a very long time. The rogue's expression darkened. You have family you never knew about, Mira. And they're coming to the Wolf Moon gathering next month. All of them. To see if the rumors are true, if Evangeline's granddaughter really did what her grandmother couldn't. What does he want? Caden's voice was dangerous. To meet her. To see if she's worthy of the bloodline. And, the rogue met Myra's eyes. To test whether she's strong enough to lead not just the Western packs, but all of them. Because your grandmother wasn't just a female alpha, Mira. She was supposed to be the High Queen. The one who united all the packs under single rule. And when she fled, that destiny passed to her bloodline. To me, Mira whispered. To you. The rogue left as quietly as she'd come, leaving only the letter and a truth that hung in the air like poison. Mira looked at Caden, saw her own shock reflected in his eyes. The Western packs are just the beginning, she said slowly. This whole time, we thought we were building something new. But we were just fulfilling an old destiny. A destiny your grandmother failed, Caden said. One that nearly got her killed. And now it's mine. Mira touched her belly, feeling the twins move. Ours. We'll face it together, Caden promised. Whatever comes next, we face it as equals. As mates. As king and queen. Through the window, the moon rose, full and bright and watching. And somewhere far to the north, Myra's grandmother waited, ready to reveal secrets that would either save the wolf world or destroy it. Their story wasn't over. It was only beginning. And this time, the stakes were higher than just survival. This time, they were fighting for the future itself. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.